My name is Keith Michaelfelder. I am the Director of Business Development for Portsmouth Smart Life, which is the RIA that falls under the Fortress family of financial services firms. So Fortress Brokerage Solutions, Essential Solutions, Portsmouth BD, and Portsmouth Smart Life are all designed to help advisors and insurance agents create the best and most holistic advice and solutions for clients and prospects. What we've noticed in our growth journey on the RIA side, and as we've worked with more advisors and more insurance agents, is sometimes optionality can be cumbersome and retard business growth just because there's so much choice. So we're in the business of creating easy buttons for advisors and insurance agents and hybrids alike. And with us, we have Brian Murray and Sean Puckett, who've developed a excellent software solution for your clients and prospects who are mulling over their next steps in, well, geez, do I need long-term care? Do I need a straight long-term care policy? Would it make sense for me to get a policy that has the riders? What do I do here? And because you have 60 or some odd carriers carrying those solutions, how do I get down and drill down for the best solutions? And then what do I do with the remainder of that money to stay aligned with my clients' risk tolerance and desired outcomes on the insurance side? What math can I apply to that? And on the phone, we have Ed Bertelson, the CEO of Q Consulting, who've designed a multitude of portfolios that use both quant and math to really get down to directionality of the market and give the client the best alpha, the best, in our opinion, the best alpha given the client's risk tolerance and expected returns. And when you can marry those two together in a succinct manner, you have a very powerful tool to not only uncover new prospects, but to uncover new opportunities in the same box, the same book of clients you have now, really helping them find the solutions and the holistic solutions that they desire. So this is one of the ways that Portsmouth Smart Life and Fortress differentiate ourselves from other RIA aggregators and other insurance IMOs and GAs that are out in the marketplace, is not only having all of the tools, but having the instruments play together in more of a symphony manner than all playing their own tune. So with that being said, I'm going to turn the call over to Brian and Sean, and they're going to walk you through our latest easy button. And if you have any questions, please hold them to the end or just shoot them through the chat, and we'll go over them at the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Keith, for that introduction and the background. As I jump into this, I want to give a little background on myself and what my experience is in the long-term care marketplace. In 1999, when I graduated college, I came straight into the industry with John Hancock through their long-term care fast start program. So I was, from the get-go in the long-term care market, and have been involved in the long-term care market space for years, for basically all my career. And I've seen it change dramatically, and the options that are out now are far beyond what anyone could have dreamed of 20 plus years ago when we were looking at this market. And as a result, as Keith indicated, I think a lot of advisors start to struggle with paralysis through analysis because there's so many different options out there, and trying to truly determine which one is the best for their client. Or they go the second route, which is they find one product that they're comfortable with, learn it intimately, and that's the product they try to utilize with all of their clients, which may or may not be right because it might not truly fit their clients' needs. So what I've done is work with Ashley, Sean and I have worked with Ashley and the Fortress team to really try to create a tool that allows you to do some good fact-finding discovery with your client on a risk tolerance, as well as what their personal experiences are with long-term care, and really focus on trying to narrow this down to 1 to 2 options to be able to present to your client and understand why you're presenting them. So what I've done, or what we've done, is Ashley and I worked on a client scenario here. We have a 60-year-old male, and the first thing you should notice here is state and region. This tool will show you what the national average is for daily, monthly, and annual costs for nursing home, assisted living, adult daycare, and home care. But it also can drill down to region, so you can see what the difference is based on where you actually are versus what the national averages are. Are you above or are you below that? So for every state you can select, you can then pick a region, and it will adjust the regional costs and show the client what it is versus the national average. I think this is great too, depending on the age of your client, because a lot of clients will say, well, we're potentially thinking about relocating to Florida or Arizona or wherever their kids or grandkids might be. So you can show them what the differences are and what the inflation adjusted options are. And I use their age 80. So whatever they are, then we project what the costs and expenses are going to be through their age 80. We also have the ability to assume tax rates as well as what their assets that they're allocating to this strategy are. In this instance, the client has about $250,000 of never touch money. And we look at that and say, hey, okay, well, what if we divide that up over 10 years into a short pay money guard solution, but using that same pool of assets and looking and doing the analysis on all the different other options, whether it be traditional long-term care, a life hybrid product, so a traditional life insurance policy with an accelerated death benefit rider on it, or the different money guard solutions there are now. As we get into this, a few things you'll notice is, one, we allow you to recognize whether this asset that the client has as their never touch money is IRA asset, non-qualified asset, or non-qualified annuity asset. We want to make sure we're treating the taxes appropriately. And in many cases, that never touch asset, I found for advisors, is an old non-qualified annuity that they sold to their client 7-10 years ago that had a guaranteed income feature on it, where the income value is actually higher than what the current value is. So we want to be able to take all these different features into consideration, as well as maybe we want to look at putting assets into a non-qualified annuity and doing an analysis with those guaranteed income features. So we can take a look at any of these options as you tell us and you discover, okay, what is the client's situation? The next thing we can do is we can ask the client a series of risk tolerance questions. These questions are actually pulled from Oxford Risk Management. We have the ability to also use Phonometrica or any other risk tolerance questionnaire that you're using with your clients. We like and support the idea of trying to make sure that whatever risk tolerance you're doing is the same across the board. We don't want you using one system for if you're doing investments with your client and a different system for this. We want to try to keep it as neutral as possible from a compliance and suitability standpoint. But this version happens to be based off of the Oxford Risk Management. But what you'll see is when we have up here what the assumed rate of return is, we also have the ability to take out your fee. So if you're charging as an RIA a 1.5, whatever it might be, this rate of return is a gross assumption. The fee is then subtracted out of all the calculations. And as we go through these questions and maybe have a more conservative client, what you'll notice is the rate of return assumption will automatically change. Now, for anyone who's and this is using just market historic assumptions. Now, for anyone who's part of the Smart Life family or is part of the RIA, we also do have the ability to use, there's a family of Blue Water funds that are matched up specifically to these risk tolerances, which we have the ability to base off their track record and what their return are. and it is substantially outperformed what the traditional market has with the same amount of risk that we're assuming based on these risk profiles. So especially anyone who's part of the Smart Life program or family, we have the ability to use the Blue Water funds, which are somewhat exclusive to Smart Life.
Brian, the one thing that I would add to that is the downside protection of those funds because of the way that they've developed them quantitatively. If you look in the terms of traditional funding methods for insurance, right? Maybe it's a 3% a year coming out or 5%, whatever you're using to fund it. The way they've designed those portfolios is to minimize drawdowns, but generate a similar or higher rate of return than the market portfolio, which is why they marry so well with insurance.
Great. Thanks,
And
Sean.
if anyone is not, there's some names on here that I don't readily recognize, is not an IAR of Portsmouth Smart Life today, we can talk about ways that we can access those managers, that management style, either by affiliating, or there may be a way to access those management styles without completely affiliating. And I'm more than happy to have those conversations. Just let Ashley know or put your email and contact information in a chat to me and we'll get in touch and I'll walk you through that.
Perfect. Great. Thanks, Keith. So this is the traditional risk tolerance, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. The next thing we have is a needs analysis. And this is more based off of what my track record and history in the industry is, that long-term care tends to be a much more emotional sale than other types of insurance. It's based off of their personal experience with their parents, with their family. And I think right now, the emphasis and focus isn't concern about this nursing home cost. It's about how do I stay in the community-based care. With the events of the last year, more people are focused on, I want to make sure I have the resources to stay in my home or stay in a community-based setting, and I want to avoid nursing homes at all costs. So when we look at this, the focus is really going to be on these community-based care, but also showing them what their resources would be if they were in a situation where they had to go to a nursing home. And the questions really are, okay, did either of your parents need long-term care? Maybe one of them did. How long did they need this assistance care for? Less than a year, 1 to 3, 4 to 6, or greater than 6 years? If so, what age do they start needing the care? Are they young, under age 65? We're in their late 60s, early 70s, or late 70s. And as you can see, what happened here is as I'm changing these answers, the recommendation is changing. And it could be, the recommendation can be anywhere from traditional long-term care to life hybrid to MoneyGuard or to MoneyGuard variable. And in certain instances where you see these two recommendations, the whichever one appears first really is the prioritized, but it allows you to show the client option A versus option B. And sort of do, okay, well, you have two options, but based on your answers, this is the one we would recommend, but we wanted to show you two choices here. And again, it goes through, did your parents have degenerative disease? If you thought you need care, how would you want to have it? Unsure, family, paid caregiver. Again, this is important because if we're doing the analysis, we want to focus on something that has an indemnity benefit versus a reimbursement benefit. We want to start to weed out some of the options based on how you trigger benefit. Where do you think you would receive care? Unsure, home, assisted living, nursing home, or community, a continuing care retirement community. And how important is it to leave this asset as a legacy? Are we trying to preserve this, or have we earmarked this that this will be spent on end of life care or care, so it's not important to preserve? So this is our data entry. This is what we're asking for the questions for you to be able to talk to your client about so that we can start to do this analysis. Then when we start to look at what the presentation to your client's going to be, we show, okay, well, what's the regional versus national daily cost right now for nursing homes, assisted living, daycare, and home care? And obviously in all these situations, the nursing home is the most expensive option. And I think that's the one that scares clients the most, but I also think that's the option that prevents so many people from doing this, because they look at it and say, well, if I only have $100 a day benefit, that doesn't seem significant enough to go through this process. Well, $100 a day benefit covers any of the community-based care. It's half of what a nursing home is, but that's not where most clients want to end up. They're trying to prevent that. So having any sort of protection is better than not having protection or having to try to self-insure. We also predict these costs out on a monthly basis for when they hit age 80, based on the historic inflation CPIs for these different types of care. And then we look based on our recommendations of how long will my plan last. So if I have $250,000 invested and I need to start using care now, how long is that $250,000 going to last in a nursing home? I want to point out here that what we're showing you is sort of how the sausage is made. This is not what you would be putting in front of your client. The whole point of the first part of this, the discovery and the getting the questions, is to eliminate as many of these options as possible, so that you're showing your client something that is going to look more like this. What if I do nothing? What if I do a life with accelerated death benefit rider? And what if I do MoneyGuard? Those are my options. And if I need care immediately, how long is this care going to last? So again, our goal is to weed out as many options as possible for you and present you the best one or two options based on your client's situation. Same thing, now we look at age 80. And you'll notice there's actually another option on here that wasn't there before. And this is this purple option, which is the MoneyGuard variable life option. It's on here twice. Once is based off of an 8% gross rate of return, and the purple is their guaranteed worst case scenario. So if you have this as an option on here, we have the ability to show both. What's the guaranteed worst case scenario, and what is the scenario based on the risk tolerance that we're assuming. But again, what we're going to try to do here is narrow out or eliminate as many of these options as possible for you to keep this as a nice, clean presentation for your client. So again, inflation adjusted, how long is my money going to last? 50 months in a nursing home, over 10 years in assisted living, over 10 years in home care for this particular client. Same thing with monthly surplus or deficit. In the current scenario, do I have enough or do I not have enough for this type of care? Again, we would narrow out the options, but more importantly is at age 80. Do I have enough or do I not have enough versus the monthly costs? Here, you'll see, okay, in the MoneyGuard variable life option at the guarantee, you're about $3,000 short a month for a nursing home. Again, not that important for the sake of this conversation, because in this scenario, we're assuming that's not where the client wants to go. We're assuming this is where the client wants to go in any of these other situations. The other one that you show has a shortfall is the life hybrid with assets. What I showed here is just what the life hybrid product offers, which is in this scenario, $8,000 a month of benefit. But what you have to keep in mind is we still have a portfolio that it was originally $250,000 of assets that has grown based on their risk tolerance. That's going to offset this shortfall. So we wanted to show, okay, well, what's the policy actually covering? But the shortfall is actually going to be zero because you have those additional assets to access that were earmarked for this strategy. Again, we would narrow out the options that that we've eliminated based on the original risk tolerance. And then the last option is, what if I never need this? If I never need care, what am I getting, or what legacy am I leaving back for my family? We have the money guard at 0%, traditional money guard. We have our investments that's funding a traditional long-term care policy. We have the life hybrid, money guard at 8%, and the do nothing, which is just, they decided to self-insure, and that's what they're going to get back. But again, in a scenario like this, we're going to eliminate the options that we had already taken off the table, so it's going to be a much cleaner presentation for your client. And that's really what this is. And as you go back and say, okay, well, this is great, and your client starts asking you questions and says, well, my risk tolerance is actually probably a little higher than that. So you can come in here and we can quickly just change the options and now raise the rate of return assumption to 7%, and it automatically changes the results in every one of the scenarios, because now we're keeping in mind that we have with certain options, not just the policy, but the future value of these assets. So we need to make sure we're taking into consideration not just the policy, but the asset that's backing the policy as well. So it's designed to be interactive. It's designed to be able to help coach you and gain as many valuable data points from your client as possible. And for us to be able to help narrow down those options as much as possible and give you one or two options for the client, and then show them not just what the costs are, what the costs are going to be in the future, and for the national as well as for whatever region they think they're going to be in. And that's it. We try to keep this as simple as possible. As I said, our goal is to be able to do the analysis on any type of policy, but we, at the end of the day, want to just make sure that we're getting you the one or two best options for your client. And with that, I think we can open, Keith, I think we can open it up for questions.
Brian, real quick, why don't you show the difference between the market and the blue water portfolios for the advisors and agents?
Thank you, Sean. I was going to ask Ed to chime in there. So thank you. I appreciate that.
So again, I think the place where it's the what if I never need it is really where it separates itself, because what you're doing is it's assuming gaining access to these portfolios as a result of using it as a funding vehicle for the life hybrid. And that's where, that 250 between the life insurance and the blue water portfolio at age 92 ends up at about 1.8. If we take this to life expectancy, call it age 87, we're at 1.2 versus 900,000. So it's substantially outperforming the traditional market assumptions. And it really, I think when you're looking at this from a holistic standpoint of not just the insurance, but the insurance and the assets, it's a great way to potentially gather assets you don't have, as well as to use them as a dedicated funding source for the protection solution that is on clients' minds now more than ever because of everything that's happened over the last 13 months.
Yeah, and I think, looking at the age, if you go back to that.
Which one? This one?
Yep. So if you were looking at the previous using the market portfolios, those graphs actually crossed over at around age 80.
Yep.
So I know that some clients would see that and say, well, I think I'm going to live until I'm, 85. So this doesn't maybe make sense for me. But when you're using, when you make the switch, exactly. So then when you make the switch to the blue water portfolios, it's showing the power of that funding source that now it doesn't even cross over, so I think it's just an added layer of usability for the client experience to show them the power of combining both of those.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, look, using this tool really illustrates the power of of everyone wants to be holistic, right? That's the big buzzword is I'm a holistic advisor. But most advisors or a lot of advisors, insurance agents don't have the tools to truly be holistic. And if they do, they rarely have a tool that they can demonstrate the power of being holistic to the client and do that graphically. And here you're able to take some assumptions and use our risk management expertise to show a predictive model as to what the client's outcomes are going to be. And I think that's truly powerful, and it's a differentiator for both insurance and advisors, or advisors who are insurance agents as well, or vice versa. That's very different, and it takes the traditional planning software like MoneyGuard Pro or MoneyGuide Pro or any of the uh, in the box solutions that really don't get into the nitty gritty of this and really gets down to the nitty gritty of here's based off of probabilities, this is what we feel comfortable, and your plan, you can feel comfortable and confident in that.
I
So
think, yeah, and Keith, I think the other thing too is in where this came from or how this came about was as I was partnering with different advisors and really focusing on um, fielding questions on this type of planning. I myself had a bias that I was so focused on the nursing home number that for a client with limited resources, for a client who might only have 50 or 100,000 or even less than that to allocate towards a strategy like this, are we actually helping them? Because if we're focused on a $200 a day daily benefit for nursing home, and we can only provide them, $75 to $100 a day of benefit based on the resources they have available, is it even worth it? And I really struggled with that personally, having any conviction behind recommendations when I was working with advisors, because it just didn't seem substantial. But when we really started to peel back the layers of the onion and really focus on community-based care, we realized that yes, we were helping the client, and we were helping the client with the most important goal they had, which is not going to a nursing home, being able to keep themselves in their home or in a child's home or in some sort of community-based care. Um, we were giving them plenty of resources to do that. Yes, there was a shortfall for the nursing home side of it, but none of them wanted to go to a nursing home. So if we could give them the care and the peace of mind of allowing them to stay in their home or the community-based care for as long as possible, we were moving the needle for the clients, and it was easy to get a lot more conviction behind our recommendations and behind our conversations with our clients. And being able to then specifically go into, based on the region they're in or the metropolitan area they're in, and show them what the costs are versus those national averages helps it even more. And it really allowed us to make some headway. And that's where we reached out to Keith and Ashley and said, I think we're on to something here. And this is really, with all the questions everyone's being asked about it right now, this is a way to really help more people than we were before.
it makes it very personal and very real.
Yeah.
Keith, to add to your holistic point of view, I have a pretty good perspective on that because I'm an asset manager. I chief investment officer at a high net worth firm in my early career, and then started my own registered investment advisor. And I come from the asset management background. So when I first started partnering with Brian on index universal life concepts and long-term care concepts, I wanted a way to be able to sit in front of my clients, my asset management clients, and be able to do some of this planning that combines the insurance and the asset management with a quantitative tool from, that's my world. So that's why I partnered with Brian, and we want to create tools like this that are bridging the gap between pure RIA and pure insurance. There's clearly a connection between those in a holistic financial plan. So coming up with these types of tools is kind of like our project over the next 2 or 3 years. The first being an IUL one, but then this long-term care one is kind of the second, iteration of that. It's just to touch on your point of holistic management, that's the entire reason these tools are existing, is because I was from the asset management, Brian was from that world. So we figured let's combine our heads and try to create some cool tools.
Yeah.
So how, and I think we can unmute everybody because I'm sure there are questions, but I'm sure the first question is going to be, I'm an advisor, I'm an insurance agent, I'm on this call, I want this tool. And that's usually Dawn Carey who says, I want it. And I know she's on the call. How do they get it? How do they go about accessing it? And how do they start their journey?
So the way to access it's through Ashley. This software is still in its in a beta form. So Fortress is the first agency that we're rolling this out to, and it is still in its beta form. So right now it's accessed through Ashley. So if you reach out to Ashley and have a case you want to work on, she'll be able to run all the illustrations for you. Walk through the risk tolerance and needs analysis questions that you have, and then we'll be able to get you the output reports based on the one or two best products. So you'll get the life insurance illustrations or the long-term care illustrations, whichever products it is, and you'll also get a deck that'll have the output reports and graphs based on, okay, here's where this is the best product, and here are the different graphs and analysis that this tool has come up with for that. The goal is eventually to get it to more of an online tool, but the reality is the tool is only as good as the illustrations that are run, and we have to, you got to work through Ashley to be able to get the illustrations to be able to have them entered into the tool. So access is through Ashley.
Okay. I see some folks unmuted. So Larry, do you have a question?
Not at this point.
Ken Ackerman, did you have a question? I saw you coming in and out of mutation.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Ashley. No, I'm fine. This is I'm a neophyte in this market, and this is really helpful. So thank you.
Good, glad to hear it. Y'all, this Zoom conference was recorded. I recorded it myself. So if there is a need to go back and rewatch this and try to better understand what it is that we're showing here, by all means, let us know. We are maintaining control over this calculator. So this is not something we're going to be distributing out to our folks. Like Brian said, we will provide you the report, but this calculator is going to be maintained on our side for this time. And certainly, if you guys think that this is something you would like to be able to utilize on your side, the reports that we would provide, but maybe you aren't affiliated with Smart Life, or maybe you aren't currently licensed for these type of products, that's something you can talk with Keith Michaelfelder about, what it would take to get a license to offer the Blue Water series, etc. So certainly, feel free to reach out to us for any questions that you guys have. If you want illustrations, again, to come to me, there's tons of different product on the LTC side that we would be able to show. The MoneyGuard style products is just one style long-term care hybrid product. But of course, there's our other carriers that we could build into the same report as well. So just, let us know what we can do. And then I'm here to run the illustrations, and we can get the proposals over to Brian to help out, get us the report and take a look at that.
And actually, I want to touch on that for a minute. If you notice anywhere in here, you see MoneyGuard in quotes, because I consider that a style of product. I know it's technically a brand's product, but I consider that a style of product. They were the first mover. They were the one that got out there ahead of time. And I think when people talk about MoneyGuard, they're really just talking about that style of product. And there's a few different carriers that have that style. So that's a very generic term there. But again, there is no carrier's horse in this race. This tool was developed to take any carrier input, any carrier influence completely out of it. I have no association with any particular carrier, nor does Sean or Ed or any of us. And even when we pulled the data for the regional costs, national costs, the inflation, we stayed away from using any carrier's website to get that information. And we went to independent or government sites to be able to pull that information, so that we were trying to keep all the insurance company influence and bias out of this analysis.
That's important to note.
Yeah.
For those who don't know me, I put my contact info in the group chat, and I'll leave it up there. The best way to get me is use the email, but if you feel more comfortable giving me a call, you know, their phone number's there as well. And I look forward to working with everybody.
Excellent.
Thanks so much, Keith. I'm gonna put my email address and phone number in the chat as well for y'all, just in case you do not have connection with me in the past. So if you would like to, you can reach out to me directly from there too. I just want to say thank you to everyone who is hosting this call today. You did a wonderful job.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
If anything comes up or anyone has any questions, you can reach out directly to Ashley and she'll loop us in, and we can make sure that this tool is as useful and powerful for you and your clients as it can be.